What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Scene Snobs podcast. I am your host, Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob himself. And it's been a while. I've been a little under the weather the past week or so getting back into it. But there's been a lot of news going on, and we definitely want to jump right into that. But first off, I want to start off by saying I'm very sad to hear the news that as of right now, there is, at HBO, there will not be a season 2 of Watchmen, which I thought was one of the best TV shows that I saw. It was definitely one of the best TV shows of 2019. It was fantastic. Now, I'm not completely heartbroken by this because they ended it in such a way, like a lot of people were freaking out calling it a cliffhanger. Yes, it was, but on a minuscule scale, and it was written in such a beautiful way that it's not so much a cliffhanger as it is just leaving it open. It could be left open to interpretation. So if there's never a season 2, if this never goes forward again, I'd be okay with that. Because Angela going to step on the water and then it cuts to black works for me. You know, it leaves it open. I get to decide now. And I think that's where good writing kind of gets overlooked, especially when it comes to TV. A lot of people watch it and they're just like, well, this is a cliffhanger. You can't leave a cliffhanger. Well, this isn't so much a cliffhanger. Kind of is, yes, because if there was a season 2, we can expand on what we just saw and where that went and everything that just happened. So it leaves it open for that. But it also leaves it open where if there is no season 2, we never see this show again. It was tied up nicely. The whole thing has a bow on it and it's good to go. So we can walk away happy, in a sense. Now, with that being said, Damon Lindelof leaving is surprising to me, but I kind of get it. Like, he told his story, and he left it open, so if anybody wanted to pick the ball up and run with it, they could. But he told his story. He was good. He was ready to move on. So I can respect that as a filmmaker, and good for him, because he did a great job with this show. You could tell he's a true fan of the source material, and although I would love to see a season 2 because these actors just nailed it and did such a great job, and I want to see where these characters go, and I thought there was a lot more that these characters could have done. I feel like taking it with another showrunner kind of messes with it a little bit, like kind of degrades it a little bit. And I don't want to say that another filmmaker couldn't, do a great job with it, but I'd hate to see it sullied in any way because it was so good. So, like, if you don't return to it, if you're not going to do it, and especially if HBO is not going to have anything to do with it, I don't know that I want to see it anywhere else. I feel like everything, all streaming services, everything has their own sort of style. Even every studio, if you kind of look to it and look at everything that comes out of, like, this studio, that studio, or this streaming service, or, all the original content, there's a style to it, and it's the style all their own. And now, it doesn't always transcend. Sometimes it does, mostly with comedies, but sometimes it doesn't transcend. Like if another studio, like say Hulu picks up a show that was canceled on TV. Now, it can work the right way, where that style is just going to get better. I think that's going to work with The Orville. I think Hulu picking that up is going to make The Orville better, because I thought there were limitations with The Orville, financially, and just writing wise, because you're on a network TV and you have to kind of follow a certain script, or certain rules or platform that they want. But before I digress too hard, I want to say, like, taking it off of HBO, this type of show that needs to connect with the source material so much, and just looks so good, and it kind of has their thumbprint on it, if you will, their footprint, if that's a better analogy. Taking that and going somewhere else with it, with a new showrunner, is just going to take away from that beautiful story we got in one season. So I think just leave it a limited series and go from there. That's me personally. That's how I feel. Now, with that being said, there's another show that kind of breaks my heart a little bit now. Mindhunters. Mindhunters Season 1 and Season 2 are some of the best TV. It's a great show if you don't watch it. And I love it. I absolutely adore the show. And everybody on it, Jonathan Groff, Anna Torv, and the other guy's name is escaping me at the moment, but he's one of the better actors I've seen on that show. Like one of my favorites, I should say, not one of the better, but does an amazing job. They all do an amazing job now. They handle different things throughout the years, and mostly it's serial killers, and like they go and they interview, and it's kind of loosely based on the FBI agents that went and decided to start talking to serial killers to kind of learn from them and learn the patterns and such. So with that, they did two solid seasons. The second season got even better and just followed this platform that was just perfect. But David Fincher makes them. He doesn't direct them all, but he usually directs a good amount of the episodes. But he handles everything. You know, Fincher, he handles everything from beginning to end. Now, Fincher's working on other things at the moment, so he had to walk away, and he thought it was unfair to keep these actors contracted to this show if it wasn't going to be made for a year or 2, 3. Let them free to go and look for other work. So right now, Mindhunter Season 3 is indefinitely on hold, and the actors were released from their contract. So the chances are there's not going to be a third season, which breaks my heart because they were really ramping up the BTK stuff. So that is a cliffhanger that is left open. That's a cliffhanger that never will get resolved. And there's other things between the characters that they left open that they're not going to resolve if they never come back. So that's a sad thing to see, especially with such a great show. Like, whereas Watchmen, everything was tied together and you can walk away and like it's open to interpretation, this one not so much. So you do leave things somewhere unresolved, and that's always kind of got a hole in your heart as you go on. So that being said, hopefully they can all get together in the future and come up with Season 3. I would just tie it together if you can and finish off strong that way. But if not, unfortunately, we lost a good show and it's not coming back. So we'll see what happens. But I am not hopeful at this time, especially with how busy Fincher is at the moment. Now, this week, we also, before I go on any further, because I want to get to the Oscar nominations and I want to talk about a lot of things that get in depth. But one thing I really wanted to talk about was Guns Akimbo. A trailer came out for it. It's Daniel Radcliffe movie. Now, I know nothing about this other than what the trailer was. I had heard there was a movie that was going to be made with Daniel Radcliffe called Guns Akimbo months and months and months ago. Whenever they were starting and getting into pre-production, they hired him. That was news that came out. Now, I didn't know anything about it. I don't know if it's based on anything. I haven't looked it up. I can only go off of my initial reaction of the trailer. And it looks intense. It looks funny. It looks like it's going to be pretty good. It looks ultra violent, and that basically, I guess what it is he's kind of like in this world, there's, I guess, a reality show where unknowing contestants can be brought into this world of violence, and like you have to try and survive or whatnot, or kill. Like, there's this character Nyx in it, and she's like an ultra badass in the show, in it, and some people break into this kid's apartment, like Daniel Radcliffe's apartment, and they cuff guns to his hands. So like he can't do anything. Like he just has these guns to his hands, and they say, "Go out and kill her, or you're gonna die." And now it's just like him, kind of like stuck in this world, this world of like this reality show that now he has to kill this woman or he's gonna die. So it looks interesting. Looks ultra violent. I can't wait to see more about it. I'm kind of leaving myself a little ignorant on it, just to kind of see where it all goes, you know. But I am definitely excited to see what happens. With that, I also I'm very happy because I got to watch 3 Oscar-nominated movies this week, and all 3 were just, I was truly blown away by what I watched so far. Now, I'm going to watch them all because I'm going to do an Oscars episode. Of course, I have to. That's like my Super Bowl. I'm getting excited for all that, but I've watched a lot of them that are nominated so far, but I haven't watched every one. With that is I've watched Marriage Story. Well, anyway, the three that I watched this week, just to kind of stay on top of that, is we have Jojo Rabbit, which was absolutely beautiful movie. I will get more into, kind of go and give my rundown after I name them all. The Two Popes, which is the Netflix movie, which was also a really good movie, and probably my favorite movie I've seen so far. That was truly intense and insane, and I loved every second of it, was Parasite, the South Korean film that came out. That's by Bong Joon-ho, who did The Host, who did Snowpiercer. He's done a ton of really good stuff, and he did this movie called Parasite, and by far that's been my favorite. Now, Jojo Rabbit was an amazing movie, and let's start there. So, Jojo Rabbit was an amazing movie about this young boy who's a Nazi youth during World War II, coming up, and his mother's in it, and you find out she's hiding a Jewish girl in their house. So it starts off almost like it's a fascination for him. Like, he's a boy, she's a girl. He has kind of a fascination, but also a hatred that he doesn't fully understand, because all of the lore and everything that he's been fed is he's projecting onto her and trying to understand. And but he's also Nazi youth, and he's working for the Nazi youth club and things like that. And it was just a fantastic movie, because there was a lot of twists and turns. When you watch it, Taika Waititi directed it, he wrote it, and he also stars in it. He plays a version of Hitler. It's Jojo Rabbit's imaginary best friend. He creates Hitler as his imaginary friend to kind of guide him through life, because he's got so many things going on, and it's such a different culture, different world that he's growing up in and he's seeing. He is going on, and it's beautiful to see how this character of Hitler changes through. He's Hitler. He has all the hate of Hitler, everything. It's Hitler as understood by a 10-year-old boy. And through it, he acts like a 10-year-old boy through it. Because that's what a 10-year-old boy knows. That's how he knows how to act. He gets mad and he kicks a chair and then he runs away. Things like that. So that's a 10-year-old boy's reaction to being angry at something. And that's how Hitler is reacting, because that's all Jojo knows. But as he goes through and he starts seeing more of the horrors of what is going on in the world and what it means, Hitler's becoming more of a dark and monstrous figure. He's still Hitler, still Taika Waititi throughout the whole thing, but he's meaner. There's a lot going on, and you just see, and every time he discovers something about Hitler, it's added to this character. And I just thought it was written beautifully. And it is beautiful, and it is a comedy, and it is sweet, but it's also very dark, and it's dismal, and it's heartbreaking at times. There's a scene with the shoes. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to give too much away. There's a scene with the shoes that when you finally realize it, and they never show anything but these shoes in JoJo, your heart just sinks into your stomach, and it's a truly terrifying and heartbreaking scene. But it never stops. It goes on from there, because that's how it was, and it grasps the reality of the situation wonderfully. So it's a truly terrific movie. If you have a chance to go see it, I definitely would. With that, I also watched The Two Popes. Now, I went into Two Popes. I grew up a Catholic. I went to Catholic school. Pope John Paul II in my house was revered. It's ridiculous, but just how much it was revered. With that, I went into Two Popes, and I know I'm not a practicing Catholic anymore, but I keep up socially and in the news and such with these popes, Pope Benedict and Pope Dominic, and but I never knew these stories. So going in and seeing these two wonderful men acting it out, which was Jonathan Pryce as Bergoglio, I think his name was, which is the current Pope. And then you had Pope Benedict, which was played by Anthony Hopkins. And these two have fundamentally different views on things and how the church works, and one's more progressive than the other. So, and they always kind of ignored each other as cardinals. So when they finally, one Pope, Bergoglio wants to retire, he has to go to the Pope for permission. And the Pope calls him, and they spend like a few days together, just talking and arguing and understanding and everything. And it's beautiful because it cuts to the backstory. And really, the guy who plays the younger Bergoglio, I think deserves a nomination himself. He did fantastic, because they keep cutting back to Argentina and where Bergoglio, things happen, and there's a course of history with Argentina and dictatorship that happens, and he kind of maneuvers his way, and you find how he handled that, and for him it was a moment of shame, but even Benedict is you did what you could do, and you did save lives, you just don't feel like you saved enough. And then you have Benedict kind of touching on points of with the whole children scandal in the church, and how he adopted that and when he came in, but how he had to kind of handle it, and he didn't handle it. He handled it in the way that his predecessors handled it, and just the way it was, and how he had to come to terms and deal with that. So, but these actors who are just forces of nature coming together and connecting, and then seeing them kind of become friendly with each other and understanding each other on a better scale. It was quite wonderful, and I really enjoyed it. Now, it comes to the third nominated movie that I've seen, which is Parasite, which out of all the ones, so I haven't seen, out of all the best pictures, because I have seen every best picture now. I don't know how many of you have done this. I think if you're a film buff, you should actually give this a try. This is years ago. I would say it was 2011, 2012. A friend of mine and I, who were film buffs, we sat down and we were we're going to watch every Best Picture winner. Before, it was 2 months before the Oscars of that year. And we're going to watch every Best Picture winner, and I think Hurt Locker won that year. I'm not 100% sure. It might have been The Artist. I have to go back and look, but so we went through, and some things we had to dig up, like Wings, which was the first. We had to go back and find it. That movie's so old. Gary Cooper was a side character in it, so going back and trying to do all this and find all of them. You have to find some on videotape, and Wings, we had to get on VHS, and then we had to get a VHS player and a VCR and watch it that way, and it was kind of exciting to do, and it was kind of refreshing, and it felt good. Even when you watch the AFI Top 100, both versions and such, this was a little different. This was I've really achieved something, because there were movies on here I thought I'd never see, and I saw, and I loved, and it woke me up to it, and I was oh man, A Man for All Seasons I had never seen before. It's just so many. I could do a whole show just on that. But so now every year, I just have to watch the Best Picture winner. Now I usually watch all of the movies nominated, just to kind of have an understanding. And when I go in and I do my votes and such, I've seen them all. But if I miss some, all I have to do is watch the Best Picture winner. So the year Moonlight won, which was funny, a flub in the sense that I did watch. I can't even remember the movie that won. I think it was La La Land, and I had seen La La Land in theaters, but I hadn't seen Moonlight beforehand, and because it was out of theaters before I got a chance to go see it, and they called it, and I was okay, I saw La La Land, I'm good. I watched the winner, and then they called Moonlight, and I was after Moonlight won, I was that ended the show. I was I'm staying up and I'm watching Moonlight. I have to watch this movie. So it just adds to the list. But with that, I've seen The Irishman, I've seen Jojo Rabbit, I've seen The Joker, or Joker rather. I've seen Marriage Story, I've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Was my favorite movie of the year until I saw Parasite, and I've seen Parasite. So I need to see 1917, Little Women, and Ford versus Ferrari, which I'm looking forward to watching all of those. I think they're all going to be really good. With that, Parasite. It does not bother me in any way to read subtitles. It does not bother me in any way to watch foreign films. I enjoy them. They're a nice escape sometimes because you're usually going to get a really good story out of a foreign film, and not always an American film. So, like Pain and Glory, another one, like a really well told story that you would not get. American movies would not do that. They would not edit in that way. They would not add those animations and things like that. Like, it's a really well done movie. So that's another one you should check out that's nominated. But Parasite. I went into this movie not really knowing what it was. I didn't read too much up on it. I just kind of was like, alright, I'm going to check this out. Everybody's saying it's a great movie. Who's seen it? I know I have some friends who've seen it. I have some friends who vote in the DGA, things like that, and they've seen it, and because of Golden Globes and DGA and whatnot, and they were talking about it, or whatever happened, like, so having seen this movie, it's filmmaking at its absolute best, and it's a story written so well, and it's so interesting. You would never see this in America. You would never see the U.S. come up with something like this. And it's just told from two points of view, a rich point of view and a poor point of view. Mostly the poor point of view, that's family that we follow. And the twist in the end, and I shouldn't even say it's a twist, it's a natural flow that goes to it. And they set everything up from the beginning. So, like very similar to how Sixth Sense is set up. Now, I'm not saying it's on a twist on the same level that's going to just completely floor you, but at the end of it, when you're watching it, you're like, wow, they did set this up from the beginning, and that's perfect writing. They didn't leave any holes in the story, and so when you got there, it was just beautiful. So, with that, watching that movie just completely floored me, because the ending is heartbreaking and so hopeless, but also hopeful, because he shows you a realm where this could be possible. He shows you a happy ending, but it hasn't happened yet. And I think that's such a beautiful way to tell a story. Like, this is something that could happen, and you are hopeful for it. You want it to happen that way. But it's also heartbreaking in a sense because, they lose a family member. And I'm not gonna spoil for anybody how. I think everybody should go check out this movie. But it's a twisted movie too, because you start to see things kind of like darken throughout the movie. It gets a little bit darker. It gets a little like the poor family becomes a little bit harsher towards the richer family, and vice versa. And then by the end, it's kind of like all culminates in this really hard world that for everybody involved, like because there's a point where the rich family's gone. You don't see them anymore after that. Like it's just they're completely gone, and you're like, now they're suffering too, and we just spent all this time with them. Now they're gone, and we're left to our imagination to think what's going on with them. How are they handling everything? So, truly beautiful movie. What bothers me about it, and this is kind of getting into the Oscar nominations. I'm going to go over all the nominations, but I want to complain about this a little bit because of how the Oscars work. The Academy Awards is very weird, and they're almost strategic. Like, vote for this person here, because then they can have somebody else win in something else. And now Parasite, which is always usually, now they call it international films category, but used to be foreign films. So Parasite is nominated for Best Picture and Best Picture International Film, which tells me that it's probably going to win Best Picture International Film. So it frees up that slot for something else to win the Best Picture, an American movie. I hope that's not the case. It has happened in the past before. Usually when you see a movie nominated for both, that's what happens. That's the direction it takes. Now, 1917, I hear, is an amazing movie, and I can't wait to see it. So I'm not going to marry myself to Parasite should win Best Picture. But as of right now, having watched majority of the movies, it should win Best Picture. So I will see as I go on, and I'll check it out. But that's, I don't know. For me, it's just kind of sad. So before I get into sort of some complaints I have about the Oscar nominations, I want to kind of go over just the top categories and who are nominated. So I already said the Best Picture. Real quick rundown: Ford vs. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Best Director: Martin Scorsese, for Irishman, Todd Phillips for Joker, Sam Mendes for 1917, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite. Best Actor: Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Driver for Marriage Story, Phoenix for Joker, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, Charlize Theron for Bombshell, Renee Zellweger for Judy. Best Supporting Actor, we have Tom Hanks for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins for The Two Popes, Al Pacino for The Irishman, Joe Pesci for The Irishman, Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Supporting Actress, we have Kathy Bates for Richard Jewell, Laura Dern for Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit, Florence Pugh for Little Women, Margot Robbie for Bombshell. Original Screenplay, Knives Out, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Best Adapted Screenplay, Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, The Two Popes. Just to kind of jump ahead a little bit on that. I love Best Cinematography. That's my favorite category. Then we have The Irishman, The Joker, The Lighthouse, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And the only thing I will say with that, as beautiful as most of those movies are, and I haven't seen 1917 yet, but it looks amazing, Roger Deakins should always win. Roger Deakins should always win because I love the way his films work. So, I explained most of the favorite categories as I go on. And the reason I did that is because I have a bone to pick with a lot of things going on here. So Bombshell came on. Now I'm not saying Bombshell isn't good. It's topical. I understand. It's kind of where the Me Too movement sort of started with the Roger Ailes thing. Now it's not exactly where it started, but it's very topical and everything that's going on in the world. With that being said, we have some snubs. And the reason I brought up Bombshell is because Bombshell, I haven't seen it yet, and I know I'm kind of being a little bit putting ahead of myself on a few things, but we have no Lupita Nyong'o for Us nominated. She couldn't fit, she played a dual role in that movie, and and I understand. I know horror movies are just treated terribly when it comes to the Oscars. I just want to complain because it's a terrible snub, and she deserves to be nominated for Best Actress. And I would say probably over Charlize Theron and probably over Scarlett Johansson. And I haven't seen Harriet yet or Judy, and Little Women, so I'll leave those alone. But yeah, we'll go from there. I'll even leave Bombshell alone, but she deserves a nomination. Jordan Peele didn't get nominated for Us. Eddie Murphy didn't get nominated for Dolomite, which I think is bull. Sandler for Uncut Gems didn't get nominated. De Niro didn't get nominated, but all of his fellow actors did, and he was the star of the movie. Come on. No women nominated for Best Director. And Little Women is nominated everywhere. Why can't Greta Gerwig, who has won an Oscar before, did you feel like she got what she was owed? Do you feel like you took care of women? Like, none of this. Like, one African American woman is nominated in these top categories, and nobody else really of color is. No women, other than the women's actress and supporting actress, are nominated for anything. Are we going backwards? Is that what's happening? Because I felt like we were kind of integrating, things are going well, and the change was coming. And I know I'm not the only one to argue about this, but like, it's a real pain in the ass. I'm sorry, I know I don't curse on the show, but that's really messed up. And just not right at all. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'll say it, and a lot of people don't agree with me. And I'm a comic book fan. But I don't know that the Joker should be nominated for Best Director. There, I said it. Phoenix should be nominated for Best Actor. I mean, I don't know that he should win. I would argue with some things. But, I mean, watch Pain and Glory, I would argue. But he was very good, and he did like submerge himself in that role. So, like, him being nominated for that, I get it. But I don't even know that it should be nominated for Best Picture. So, there's my argument for that. But, no women and no really people of color. And I'm not just talking about African American. I'm talking about, we had Mexican last year with Roma and like different minority groups being, and I know, I feel like the white guy who's trying to ride in here, but I argue it because why was nobody from Parasite nominated? Why wasn't Awkwafina for The Farewell nominated? These are ones that should have been nominations that come up. Lupita Nyong'o should have been nominated, but it didn't come up, and it's just annoying. So, like, it's not a white guy looking at this and saying, oh, I'm woke. It's not about being woke. I could give a damn about being woke. It's what's right. And as I'm looking at names on this and movies I've seen, they shouldn't be up there compared to a lot of the actors in these other movies that are nominated for Best Picture. So I'm sorry, I just get annoyed by it. I'll leave it alone for there because I wind up getting myself in trouble. So, with that being said, those are your Oscar nominations. And I don't know. But here's the thing about the Oscars. I love watching the Oscars every year. I love getting into the awards season, the glitz, the glamour. I want to believe in the Hollywood that they're selling. But I lived in Hollywood. I worked in Hollywood for years. I'm out of the industry now, by choice, and it is not what it seems. It is not what they're pushing. And it's sad. It is, because I want to buy into it. I want to live it. I want to watch the award shows and be like, it's the glitz and glamour, and it's Hollywood, and Hollywood is above everything. But more and more as I get older and I just have memories of things, I'm like, this is not what they're selling, and it gets sadder and sadder. And so it got me thinking lately about what do I like versus what is considered the best of all time. Like, you watch these and it's like, okay, it's the best picture. So I've seen every Best Picture winner. Now ask me how many of those Best Picture winners I've watched since. I don't think any. Maybe Saving Private. Did Saving Private Ryan win? I'd have to go back and relook at the list, but there's a lot of them like I'll never watch again. They were really good when I watched them, and there were some that I just thought were really bad and shouldn't have won Best Picture. But I'll never watch them again. And there's something to that, because there are movies that were nominated for Best Picture that I've never returned to again. Some are. I think Parasite is one that I will return to again. I don't think anything else on that list I'll return to again. I mean, I liked The Irishman. And there's a lot of different things I liked on that list that I saw. But I don't think I'll ever watch them again. again, maybe only Parasite and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I really love that movie, and I will watch it again because it is a fun, good time. And Tarantino is like the exception to the rule. Tarantino is a filmmaker where you want to watch his movies over and over again. But there's even an argument for this one being too long and not being as action-packed as most of his movies to keep you kind of entertained. But I love the movie. Again, it sells like glitz and glamour of Hollywood that it isn't, and I like to buy into that sometimes. So that will be a movie I go back to. I'm never going to watch The Two Popes again. I'm never going to watch Marriage Story again. I'm never going to watch The Irishman again. Jojo Rabbit was a completely beautiful movie, and I love it, but I'll probably never watch it again. Probably, I'll watch 1917 for this. I'll watch Little Women for this. I'll watch Ford vs. Ferrari for this, and I'll probably never watch them again. Joker, I'll probably never watch again. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I loved his performance, but that's about it. I didn't love the movie, though. So, and I understand that that's kind of a taboo thing to talk about because a lot of people love that movie so much, but it just wasn't for me. So it got me thinking. Like, I go to Psycho Cinema almost once a week, at least. And those movies, I missed out on Ghoulies, which was the first movie this month, because there was a snowstorm and I couldn't get out to it. We were snowed in, they didn't plow our streets. So I had a ticket, but I missed out on going. But the next, Saturday, I went and saw a movie called Hobgoblins. And I've worked in video stores from teenage years. I've worked in Blockbuster. I've worked in Hollywood Video. I've worked in Suncoast Video. I've worked in a lot of video stores, dating back to before Blockbuster. Before Blockbusters were so popular and everywhere, and before Hollywood Videos got that way too. I worked in a place called Premier Video, which was just a video house, something you saw out of Clerks with RST. And before that, I went to the video store every summer. I remember one summer when I finally could. I think I was about 13. I loved horror movies. I loved sci-fi movies. I loved action movies. So I would go, and they were $1 to rent. So I'd have maybe $1 or $2 a day. I would save up money, things, do jobs or whatever. And I would go to the video store. And I wasn't always going to a new section. I knew, if I wanted to see a new movie, my brothers or my parents or something, they would get it. But I was like, I want to see these. I want to see these VHS crazy-looking movies in the horror section, in the sci-fi section, and in the action section. And I would pick out movies from there. And I saw every Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. I saw everything. I just saw everything. I saw RoboCop that way. I saw so much by just going and renting movies every day for a summer. I would walk up there, and that's the Premier Video I went to work for when I came. I think it was 16 or 17. But I would just go every day. They knew me by name. They'd rent the movies. I'd leave. I'd watch them. Come back. Drop them off. And they were VHS. I would watch those cheesy trailers for movies in the beginning that were on demands that were coming right out. And I just saw so many great things that I've seen so many times since. And that got me thinking. So, Oscar season's coming out. We just had the Golden Globes. We have so many good movies, the best of the best and such every year. And I see a lot of people freaking out about it and being like, I have to watch this because I have to see the best because this is art. And we'll call them, for all intents and purposes, art house films. The artistic world, if we will. And I'm in it. Listen, I went to film school. We've had these discussions. We watch these movies. I know it. I know that world. I was a filmmaker. I understand that. But I also know the other world. I also know where it pays. You work on the cheesy horror movies. The filmmakers work on the cheesy horror movies to make money, like the Below the Line Crew and stuff like that. They'll work on a ton of those. And then they'll get the experience to go up and work on these Best Picture winners or these indies that are going places. That's how I did it. So everybody does it that way. That's what they don't tell the film buffs, the ones who are, get these campy movies away from me. I want these. Or even the campy cult classic people saying, get those disgusting movies away from me. I have no interest in these art house films or these indie films. The two can merge, by the way. You can enjoy both. It's just about finding the merit in everything and having an artistic view on, and finding the artistic view in everything too. So, with that being said, I went. I think it was like a Saturday ago or 2 Saturdays, something like that. And I saw a movie I've never even heard of before. Now, mind you, I've seen every horror movie on the rack at Premiere Video. I've seen them at Blockbuster. I've seen them at Hollywood Video. And I'd never heard of this movie. And when they were showing it for Psycho Cinema, I was like bewildered. It came out in 1988, and it was called Hobgoblins. And it was a movie made for $15,000 with nobody in it that you would know. You'd never heard of the filmmaker before. He's made a few movies since. I got to talk to him, and a little bit, on Facebook, and I would love to interview this guy because he was young when he made this movie, and I watched this movie and I was just enamored by it. I will watch Hobgoblins again. I just told you I will not watch probably all but 2 of the best pictures the best picture nominees for this year, and I will watch a movie from 1988 called Hobgoblins again. Why? Because I have questions and I want more, and because I found the merit in that and what he did, and having 15 grand and going out and just doing the best he could, and I appreciate that, and that's where the cult classic comes in. Why can I watch Escape from New York 100 times? Why can I watch The Fog? Why can I watch Reservoir Dogs? All of these movies, Clerks, things like that just over and over. Back to the Future is my favorite movie of all time. I have it on the wall everywhere. You guys have probably seen it in my background. But, I probably will not watch some of the Best Picture winners from... I'm never going to watch Out of Africa again. Now, there are decades that, again, are kind of exceptional. Tarantino's an exceptional role. He's always nominated. And his movies I will always go back and revisit. The 70s produced a lot of movies that I will go back and rewatch. But if I had the choice between Back to the Future and The Godfather Part 2, I would probably watch Back to the Future. Because Godfather Part 2 is great. But Back to the Future brings me back to a nostalgic place and puts a smile on my face. Godfather 2 doesn't do that. It's just a good movie, and I can appreciate. But I think that's where it comes in, and I think that's where I marry the two, and because I can go, and because most of the time I go see these Best Picture winners or Best Picture nominees for the filmmaking side of things, how they made it. What new technologies they're making it with, or the acting, and how the acting came about, and to kind of learn something from it. It's kind of a film school for me, because you have to appreciate these movies that are being put out, because they are nominated for a reason. They are, and it's a film school within its own right. Now, I will watch them for that reason. Usually the stories aren't that great. They aren't perfect. Usually they're simple stories that are well acted and well filmed, but they can be very simple in a lot of times, and then you get these movies like Hobgoblins that is not a very simple movie. It's just kind of like out there, and it's not a good movie, but it's great within its own right, and you love it because you walk out on it. And then I watched what was it? I just went and I watched another one with Psycho Cinema this week. I'm losing my mind on it. I have it here. Oh, Tammy and the T-Rex. I've never seen Tammy and the T-Rex before this. I was like, I got to jump in. I got to go see this movie. It's supporting Psycho Cinema, and it's a dinosaur that it's Paul Walker's brain gets put in a mechanical dinosaur, and he goes and kills the people who beat him up and killed him. It's insane. The movie's insane. The movie knows it's insane. But it was fun. And I think that's where we lose ourselves. If you can't marry the two, if you can't go and watch artistic movies and appreciate the cult classics of the campy movies, you're either, I'm the scene snob, but I'm saying this, and you're either too snobby or you're too far the other way where you're just like, turn your back towards those. Like, I'm not going to watch the Best Pictures or, things like that. Like, and you got to break out of it, because you have to start to appreciate the filmmaking. Like, I'm not going to Tammy and the T-Rex to say, this is a tour de force in filmmaking. No, it's cheesy. It sucks. Nobody knew what was going on, but I know the people who worked on that set were probably kicking themselves going, what are we doing? But they did it. They made something. And I can appreciate that. And look who came from it. Denise Richards, Paul Walker. You had people in that movie, like, even in the background, you're like, man, they were just starting out, but they're there, and they did it, and they made a movie. They made a movie just like every one of those Best Picture nominees. They made a movie. It got out. It's out there, and I can appreciate that. I was in a movie. I worked on it. I worked in the lighting department, and I was in it as a zombie. You can see me in it in a long shot in a hallway. Of course, because I'm 6'8", you can see me tower over everybody. I just played a zombie, nothing major. They needed extras, and I was like, all right, I'll jump in. I'm not doing anything at this moment. And it was called Zombies, Zombies, Zombies. Strippers versus Zombies. And it was so overshadowed because they were making this movie, and I remember we were just up in the late nights. We had a good time making it, though. It was a fun time. One of the most fun times I've had making a movie. You didn't want to sit anywhere. You're in an old strip club, but whatever, in Florida, you're like, okay. But you had a good time making it. And I've had so many good times making movies, especially movies like that. More so than the movies that were like taken too seriously, And I remember at the time we were making that. We were so excited to see this come out because it was like a different idea. It was a different take on the zombies. And then, like, as they were editing it, another movie came out called Zombies vs. Strippers, starring Jenna Jameson. And that, now you'll never find Zombies anywhere. If you're lucky, you might find a DVD. And it's not a great movie, but it's a fun movie. It is a fun movie to watch. And everybody I've ever shown it to, because I do have a copy, has enjoyed it and thought it had its merit, and thought, like, I can laugh at this, I can enjoy it. And I think that's what's important. And that all culminates. I remember I was in film school one time, and I came home. I was living in a house with like 3 other guys, but it was like, that was our hub, so everybody kind of came there to hang out. So you had all walks of life there when you'd walk in, especially our back porch, which is a big area. We all hung out and like drank and talked, and we've had great conversations on. Well, I remember I went and saw The Bucket List once. I would do that sometimes. I would just go to a movie, and whatever was playing when I got there, I went and saw it. And at this point, it was The Bucket List. That was the Jack Nicholson, Morgan Freeman movie by Rob Reiner. I remember watching it, and I was like, it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's nice. I like Rob Reiner, and he's made some good movies I've enjoyed in the past, but I just don't really, but it's not one of the best movies. I don't think it should be a Best Picture nominee, but I enjoyed it. And then I remember I came home, and again, it was a movie I just picked because I was there and it was starting. And I had a good time, and I enjoyed myself. And when I come home from the theater and I enjoy myself, I feel like that's a win. I remember I walked outside, and one of my roommates sitting with another guy, kind of a pretentious guy, in film school. And he was like, I just said, hey, what's up, and I was just like, they were like, oh, what were you doing? I was like, I went and saw a movie, and I was like, I went and saw The Bucket List, it was playing, and, that's what I went, and they were like, really? And I was like, yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it was a Rob Reiner movie. I like Rob Reiner movies. Who doesn't like The Princess Bride? Who, When Harry Met Sally? There are some good movies that Rob Reiner has put together. And he just looked at me, and I remember with the most pretentious look, and he's just like, Mike, you and I have very different tastes. And I was just like, why are you trashing me, dude? Like, I can go see the same movies you see and like them. But I like these too. And I remember that always resonated with me. And I've always tried, even with reviews and stuff like that, to try and find something that works in everything and what I appreciate. But one thing I want to take away from this is, like, as much as the award winners and the ones that you go see and that you love, and they may resonate with you. You may be able to sit there and you may be able to talk to your friends, but don't be pretentious about them. Just don't be. Because there is merit in the other movies too, especially when it comes to the filmmakers. So all the filmmakers that you're watching, below the line, above the line, whatever else, appreciate those movies too. They appreciate the zombies. They appreciate Tammy and the T-Rexes, the hobgoblins. They'll go back and watch it. They may say it's bad. They may say they may not like it, but they're going to go home. They're going to watch some form of that cult classic or that campiness. And if I could say that to film buffs, like, cool it. Just keep cool. Stop acting pretentious about it. I get it. I see what you see. I understand the same things that you understand. Probably better than you do. But it doesn't mean I need to bash the other movies too. It's because I can appreciate them for what they are and the fun nights that those crews must have had on them. Probably way more fun than they had on the nominated movies. So with that, I just say be cool and find the good in everything, if you can. Now, I'm not saying you're always going to find a good movie, but try and find something good about it. If you have an outlook like that of positivity with something you watch in any form, you will find a good movie. I can't tell you one bad movie I watched that entire summer when I was renting at the video store every day. I can't tell you one bad movie, but I know they were in there. But I enjoyed every day of doing it. And with that, I'm going to leave you for this week. I will say this. If you like these videos, if you like this podcast, like and subscribe here on YouTube if you're watching the video. If you listen to it, like and subscribe on SoundCloud or Spotify, wherever we are. Check us out. And also follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We are at The Scene Snob. And give us a like on Facebook. We have a page, the Scene Snobs page. So we appreciate it. And definitely reach out. I like to hear what everybody thinks as well. So I look forward to it. And next week we probably have a lot more going on. I want to talk about the Morbius trailer then. I think I've talked a lot of people's ears off. And I kind of missed that topic. But I do want to talk about that. So we'll get more in depth with that next week. All right. Thanks a lot. And you have a great night, everybody. Take care.